When SpongeBob SquarePants first aired on Nickelodeon in May 19, 1999, which was the year I was born in, it became one of the most popular shows of all time with episodes like Band Geeks, Naughty Nautical Neighbors, The Lost Episode, aka The Sponge Who Could Fly, etc. But did you know that after the 2004 release of the SpongeBob SquarePants movie, the show was supposed to end there? Well, that is weird if you think about it, since the show has been going on for almost 16 years at the time of this video. But instead, we got some new writers to continue the series, which somehow brought the show downhill with some terrible episodes like One Course Meal, A Pal for Gary, Stuck in the Ringer, the list goes on. Oh, and SpongeBob also had two terrible TV movies, which are the stale musical Atlantis SquarePants and the boring 10th anniversary special Truth or Square. But at least we had a variety of SpongeBob video games to play. Did you know that the 7 main characters of the show represent the 7 deadly sins? I know, surprising, right? Now listen to me. The only SpongeBob game I played at home was Creature from the Krusty Krab for my PlayStation 2, which is what my first video game review is going to be. Now keep in mind, I haven't played any other SpongeBob game ever made, including Battle for Bikini Bottom, except at my cousin's house, but that doesn't count. I did play the Kinect version of Surf and Skate Road Trip at my cousin's house too, but that doesn't count either. Why? Because I never had beaten either of those games. And I'm sorry to say this, but a long time ago, my PS2 along with my Nintendo 64 somehow doesn't work anymore, and I don't think I know why. I also ended up giving the game away to my cousins because 1, I was getting old for this game, and 2, I needed to save some memory for my cute little PS2 for more games on it. So with all that said, let's start the review. The story of this game begins with SpongeBob dreaming that his bed is a bleepin' hot rod. This made him race against some classic SpongeBob characters on a racetrack in his front yard. But of course, things always seem to go wrong after every race. Meanwhile, Patrick dresses himself up as a superhero named Starfish Man to defeat a villain known as the dreaded Patrick. Though I do find the superhero idea confusing nowadays. Why? Because in the modern SpongeBob episode Patrick Man, which premiered 6 years after Creature from the Krusty Krab was released, Patrick became a superhero known as, well, Patrick Man, who is the defender of Bikini Bottom. So it seems that Patrick is Starfish Man in his dreams, while he's Patrick Man in real life. The only time that it does make sense is that they're both superheroes and that they are Patrick's alter egos. Anyways, meanwhile, Patrick uses a Krabby Patty crumb that he stole from the Krusty Krab to transform it into a real legit Krabby Patty using his Enlargatron. Unfortunately, the patty somehow grew way larger than Plankton was expecting it to be. So Plankton uses the invention on himself to grow larger than the big Krabby Patty. But it doesn't work. Why? Because 1, he only grew to the size of a fish in Bikini Bottom, and 2, it wasn't enough to outgrow the giant Krabby Patty. So it looks like he'll either have to use his freeze ray, Despiculator, to get away from the patty, or be crushed. But the climax of this game really occurs when Plankton finally gets his Enlargatron working the way it should have been before. Wait a minute. The name of the invention, Enlargatron, does sound familiar. Yeah, this is a reference to Tron, isn't it? Anyways, do you guys remember the classic SpongeBob episode Sleepy Time, which came out almost 7 years before this game was even released? Where in Plankton's dream, he was a walking giant who destroys Bikini Bottom by smashing things and shooting lasers from his eye. Now, you might be wondering, what does that have to do with anything? Well, first off, I think looking at the box art of the game should be pretty obvious by now. And secondly, we can finally play as the giant version of Plankton as he's trying to destroy Bikini Bottom to catch that Krabby Patty. So yeah, that's all the story I can give to you right now because I don't want to spoil anything else about the game's plot, except that near the end of the game, SpongeBob, Patrick, and Plankton's dreams will soon intertwine with one another. Oh, and remember kids, don't eat a Krabby Patty before bedtime, or you might end up having dreams like this. Okay, now for the gameplay. SpongeBob SquarePants Battle for Bikini Bottom is a mishmash of 4 video game genres in one package. Racing, 3D platformers, 2D platformers, and on-rail shooters. Could be wrong. The playable characters are SpongeBob, Patrick, and for the first time ever, Plankton. There are a total of 9 chapters to complete in this game. Scattered throughout the game are these things called snoozies, which are your currency of the game. You can pay them at a shop where you can buy some unique stuff that I won't spoil. Throughout your adventure, you'll come across these little jumping Patrick and Plankton things called sleepy seeds. The sleepy seeds match Patrick and Plankton's colors. Collecting all 27 of each sleepy seed, which means 27 Patrick sleepy seeds and 27 Plankton sleepy seeds, will allow you to play as Patrick and Plankton in the final chapter of the game. That's because without them, you'll only be playing as SpongeBob. More on the sleepy seeds later. Completing the last chapter of the game with each character will reveal each of the characters' different endings before the real ending comes in. More on those later. Oh, and by the way, the first time I played this game, I only played a bit of it and I didn't save the game. So when I came back to start over with saving, probably, I couldn't figure out how to get back to the main game because I thought the story mode was basically a mode where you read a story. Until I found out that the story mode is the main mode of the game. So yeah, I was young back then and I didn't know everything about stuff like that, including how to pronounce words properly. Those were the days. Good! Alright, now where do I begin with what I liked about this game? I guess I'll start with the level design. I find it to be really good. I mean, 1 minute SpongeBob is a hot rod racing champion, and soon after, he's trying to escape from the bowels of an Alaskan ballworm. The controls in this game is very responsive and fun. I also like the fact that just like almost every SpongeBob game, each character has a different moveset, such as Starfish Man's Turbo Twist attack, which can not only take out enemies, but can change your clothing from underwear to normal to fully dressed up. Personally, I prefer the fully dressed up version because that makes Starfish Man less naked and more of a superhero costume. I find the mini games you encounter at the end of each segment of each chapter to be really fun. And speaking of which, you can actually replay any chapter of the game at any time you want to. So yeah, there's a great amount of replay value and variety to be found here. I found the soundtrack of this game to be really enjoyable to listen to, especially when you're falling. You can also replay some of the mini games here, so that's nice. The humor is pretty funny here. I don't remember if I laughed at it or not, but oh well. Oh, and lastly, I find the story of this game to be really good with some plot twists along the way, even though it's just a dream. Or is it? Bad. Even though you can replay the 9 chapters in this game, you can't replay the different segments of the chapters. which means that if you want to replay a chapter, you'll have to go through every single part of that chapter all over again. The reason why I'm complaining about this is because some of the chapters tend to drag on from time to time. I'm looking at you, Alaskan Belly Trouble, longest chapter in the game. Speaking of chapters, most of them either end anticlimactically or with a cliffhanger that can only be resolved later on in the game. And speaking of endings, the 3 characters' endings and the main ending were anticlimactic and stupid. And this may be a minor complaint, but some of the characters in the game never appeared in the cartoon show at all. I mean, what? Now, I have heard that people were complaining that the game was short. Personally, I don't think I found it to be short because of those long chapters I just mentioned earlier. I really don't like it how the sleepy seeds are hidden out of plain sight. I end up having to go out of my way to find some of them really carefully. Thank you, Mr. Sleepy Seed tracking device that appears on screen. Another complaint is that there are no boss fights in this game except for the final fight against Giant Plankton. Lame. Oh, and one more thing. There are some button mashing segments here and there, like the train sequence in the second chapter where I had to push the train back on my second try. Ugh. All in all, SpongeBob SquarePants Creature from the Krusty Krab is a good game to play from beginning to end. Even though it's not perfect, I still enjoyed it regardless. If you're looking for a good dreamy video game and a break from all that logic, then this game is for you. Otherwise, you might want to find another game to buy. So with that said, I'm giving this game 4 fingers out of 5. Enjoy this game at your own risk. Alright everyone, thanks for watching my first video game review. If you enjoyed it, be sure to rate, comment, subscribe, favorite, and like this video if you haven't already done so. I'm the Purple Mario, and don't disappoint us with Sponge Out of Water, Nickelodeon. I mean it.